Good afternoon, fellow Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians. It's a pleasure having you here with me on the set of the War Zone right here on ABS TV. Again, I have to apologize for the late start. We're always trying to get things together, but it's not always as easy as we would wish. But I'm glad you are here with me today, this 8th day of August 2023. It's a great day to be with you as we have a package that is packed full of information. And first of all, I would like to start with greetings to our citizens in our homeland, Amazonia, those who are seeking refuge in foreign lands like in Nigeria, those out here in the diaspora who themselves find themselves like refugees as well, who cannot go home for one reason or the other, the most prominent of which is the fact that they will be prosecuted or killed by La Republic of Cameroon if they should travel home. So we are equally refugees out here, even in the diaspora. I have quite a good number of things that I have to bring to you today during this program. And of course, we all are feeling the wind of change that is blowing through the continent of Africa at this present moment, which is something exciting. I love it. So we will talk about that briefly. And then we also will take a look at the fact that for so long, France has been pillaging the resources of the African continent with impunity. And it seems like they said, they are beginning to realize that this thievery, if I could call it that, this thievery would not continue as usual. That Africans are standing up now and saying, we are not going to allow our resources to be carted away while our people die for lack of basic necessities. That it will no longer be the case. And the wind of change that is blowing through the Sahel, and I wonder where exactly it's going to end. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. On top of this list of items that we will discuss will be a press conference. A press conference that will be presented by a panel that I will bring in later. This panel is constituted of the coordination team that is doing consultative work towards the eventual holding of an all-inclusive Ambazonian conference. So the coordination team that is doing the work that will result in an all-inclusive Ambazonian conference will be here to brief us on what they have been working on and what they plan in the days ahead. So I will bring them at the top of this program, and they will give us what they have in store for Ambazonians, and also they will, very important for Ambazonians, very important, they will be taking your questions. If you have any questions for them, then you prepare your questions. We will put a phone number here where you can call and present and ask your questions, and this team will be able to take your questions and answer them to your own satisfaction. So don't go away. Stay tuned. This will be a very, very exciting program. So this team is coming in to brief you. But before that, and because we are we're already running behind on time, I would like for us to go first straight away to the situation that is happening on the ground in La Republic of Cameroon. I believe most of you, if not all of you, maybe some people may not have listened to it, but the situation is dire. The situation is not looking good in La Republic of Cameroon. La Republic of Cameroon is not able to pay their bills. And it is not me saying it. One of their TV stations recounted the sad state of La Republic of Cameroon's finances. And most of their parastatal companies are owing billions, not millions, but billions. And we wonder how a country can function when the very parastatals that are supposed to be generating income to help the economy are themselves owing. So, where is the money going? If is there any money, or is it being stolen? What is going on? But before we do that, I would like to bring in one of my panelists who will join me first, and the others will come in later, being none other than Dr. Ngwambe, whom you very well know. I would like for Dr. Ngwambe to join me so that we go through this first, and then we will quickly go through these two topics, and then after that we will bring in the panel of the that will present to us the press conference. And when Dr. Ngwambe comes in, we will play a video. I think it was of Equinox, where they were recounting the sad state of the La République du Cameroon's economy. Dr. Ngwambe, if you are there, please, can I quickly see you?
Oshimesote Lensa, bro. How are you?
Yes, Max Imeta. Welcome, Dr. Ngwambe. Dr. Say hello to our viewers.
Yes, my fellow Ambazonians, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, irrespective of where you find yourself. As you all know, it is always a great day to be an Ambazonian because we are a free people who are resilient, we're courageous, we're intelligent, and we have a very prosperous future. So I look forward to having this conversation with you today so that we can learn from each other. You know, I want to make sure I greet everyone in Ground Zero. I greet our liberation forces who are fighting to make sure that we have a country of our own. I salute, the IG led by Comrade Chris and our Restoration Council because of all their efforts they're doing to make sure that we have an independent and sovereign country. And I also want to salute all the other pro-independence-minded Ambazonian organizations for their own efforts, because we all are doing this together and we can only go further together. Thank you.
And again, I want to add my voice to yours by thanking our ARFs on the ground who are doing a marvelous job. There will be no revolution, or there will be no struggle without them. There will be no struggle without them. So we cannot thank them enough for the work they are doing. So without much ado, if the studio has the video of the Equinox lamentation of the state of affairs in La République du Cameroon, let's quickly view it, and then we'll go on with our commentary. If we have that video, can we see it now, please? It's a video of, I think it was on Equinox English, English news, where they were lamenting the fact that Sonara of all is owing billions of dollars, and the highest amount. Sonara is owing billions of dollars. Their water company, Cam Water, or whatever they call it, is owing billions of dollars. CDC is owing billions of dollars. All of them are in red. All of them are in red. While we wait for that video, Dr. Ngwambe, I mean, these are the very companies that are supposed to be helping La République du Cameroon's government to function and to be able to do what it's supposed to do. They're supposed to be income generating investments. These are investments. But if they are in debt, then, I mean, what's the use having a business that is sinking money? And where is this money going? Is Sonara not selling oil anymore? Or what is happening there? Can you help Ambazonians wrap their minds around what is happening in La République du Cameroon?
So I think, you know, the unfortunate issue behind this thing is that there is no transparency when it comes to what we all know as Sonara. You know, Sonara, which is based in Ambazonia, which is based in Fako County, which is also Ambazonia. The money that is being, you know, generated from this God-given resource to the Ambazonian people, it is not even being paid to the urban council of Boya or in Fako. It's going to Douala. That's issue. For a long time, I know French Cameroonians and Ambazonians were made aware that the revenue that was being generated from Sonara was actually being directed towards the presidency. You understand that where the presidency was
Yeah, yeah.
making up huge income from that money, which is why they were able to finance the kind of lifestyle that they were living, and that money was hidden from the books. So when you see a state institution being managed by a corrupt dictatorship, I'm not surprised, because when I had to convert this money, I think they said it was um, what is the amount that they said was there? It was like 277 billion francs CFA, something like
Billions,
that.
yeah.
I had to convert it to US dollars so I could really understand it, and it came out to about 470. That's 470 million dollars. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Bro, you know how many road and the fee fix with that kind of
Oh
money?
my God.
Just last week we were seeing the video of what the Bamenda Womb Road was looking like, and it was in a very sad state of affairs. So imagine if that kind of money could have been directed towards fixing the Bamenda Womb Road. You could imagine. And even all the other roads in Ambazonia, that this kind of money that Sonara generates and Sonara is losing, if that kind of money could be directed towards fixing our infrastructure and financing other items that can help Ambazonia to be a very productive country that can compete in the international sphere. It's a really sad situation, but hey, that's why we Ambazonians are fighting for freedom, and that's why we cannot lose, and that's why we're not going to give up.
The national oil refinery company Sonara is the most indebted public company in Cameroon. Sonara owes over 277 billion francs CFA, according to a report from the Sinking Fund of Cameroon. Now, for me, I'm Strong Sanda, this report presents the situation as far as the debts of public companies in Cameroon are concerned. Details coming up.
Document says as of June 30th, 2022, the total internal debts of public enterprises and establishments stood at 392.8 billion francs CFA. On the list of most indebted public enterprises, the National Oil Refinery Company Sonara tops. Sonara alone is indebted to the tune of 277.6 billion francs CFA, representing 70% in this category. In details, Sonara owes 247.2 billion francs CFA to banks and 28.8 billion francs CFA to suppliers. Next to Sonara, the Cameroon Airlines company Cameco has a total internal debt of 62.4 billion francs CFA. On the third position, and immediately after the Cameroon Airlines company Cameco, is the Douala Port Authority, the PAD, with an internal debt of 17.9 billion francs CFA. Next to the Douala Port Authority is the Cameroon Telecommunications, Camtel, with 15.9 billion francs CFA. Camwater, which is yet to find a formula to the repeated water crisis in towns and cities in Cameroon, has a total debt of 5.2 billion francs CFA as of June 30th, 2022. Other highly indebted public enterprises and establishments includes the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, with 9.4 billion francs CFA, the MI2 with 3.3 billion francs CFA, while the SCDP, Sodecoton, and the CAA were not classified.
Okay, so you see there, we are talking here. Look at the list of companies in red. Look at the list. Camtel is there. How could they be losing money? Cameco and Dr. Gwame, I'm surprised to see that Republic Cameroon still has something called Cameco. Do people really fly in those death traps? If you tied me and put me in one of those so-called planes, I will find a way to untie myself and get out before it gets off the ground, because it's just risky getting, because the shortcuts that have been taken just to get that thing to a runway, and you go in there, you don't know if you're going to get to the next destination. So I'm very surprised that they still have something called Cameco, but that is the situation. And
the National Oil Refinery Company Sonara is the.
I don't think we can underestimate the impact of this senseless war which Paul Biya launched on the people of the southern Cameroons. He launched this war thinking it was going to be a walk in the park. Now they are beginning to realize what a colossal mistake they made, because the thing is draining money, and they are stuck like a vehicle in mud. It's not moving. Each time they make promises and they come up with all kinds of tricks and they think that they will get out of it, but they are going nowhere. They are not going anywhere. And that is why I thought we should discuss this, because this is what I believe, Dr. Mwambe, that in the days ahead, now that these companies are beginning to feel this, the next thing is that the people to Cameroon will not be able to pay the salaries of their public servants. That is where this thing is going. And when it hits there, that is when they will know exactly the consequence of this war. And we'll talk about what we need to do going forward. But what's your take on this?
You know, my take on it is just, again, some of these things are not really surprising to me, because you just see the direction the country is going, and you realize that when you have a corrupt political leadership that is not accountable to its people, and then you recognize that there is this corrupt political leadership that is appointing the director generals to all these parastatals, then you begin to realize why they can be, these kind of places will be owing the kind of money that they do. Because at the end of the day, the people who are in charge of these companies, it's a political appointment, right? They're not there to make that company money. They're instead there to satisfy the person who appointed them. They're there to steal all the money that they can, and they're not even really worried about anyone, maybe a board of directors, removing them from that particular position because of poor management, because their réseau, what the francophones call réseau, it reached all the way for Itudi. You understand now? So what are they worried about? So I mean, it's really a sad situation. But I know we in Ambazonia, we are going to do a lot better than this, because this issue, I mean, technically there are certain spheres of certain economic spheres inside your country that you do want your country and your government to be in control of. For example, the telecommunications infrastructure. That is something that, as much as we would want private institutions to exist there and to be able to compete in it, something like this Camtel is something that we, Ambazonia, we would want for ourselves, because we want to be able to have, when our government institutions communicate, they have to do it in a clandestine way. But we want it managed efficiently, especially if they're going to be having a portion of that communication structure to have a civilian communication line to it. But we're going to want that managed in a more transparent way. We're not going to allow our prime minister or president to appoint people to parastatals. We don't want that. You know, let a board of directors.
I think one other thing, Dr. Ngombe, before we move on. One other thing is that you cannot underestimate the incompetence and the blatant corruption of the officials managing these companies. The incompetence. First of all, these guys don't know how to manage anything. Then when you couple that with their willingness to steal with impunity, that is, we saw the images of one of the officials who was caught with money in a whole room, where when the officials were coming, they tried to burn the money, but it could not burn because it was just so packed tight. That is, they steal with impunity. There is no remorse. There is no thought about, okay, but how is the country going to survive if I alone can steal this much money? So what is going on now is, coupled with the vacuum of leadership, because the La Republic has no leadership at this point. So what is happening now is there's a looting frenzy going on right now, a looting frenzy. That is, everybody is stealing as much as they can and stashing it away because they don't know what tomorrow holds. They are looking at the thing, at their ship, and it's taking in water. It's taking water, and they don't know when this thing is going to go under. And people are now building their private safe islands where they will go when the thing sinks. And there are some who are foolishly still holding on, hoping that that thing can be saved. I have said the foundation of that country is wrecked. That thing needs to be knocked down with a bulldozer and start from afresh, because it's not going to work. So that is what I think. And it's just a pathetic situation. Let's just move on to the next topic because we are really running short of time here, which is this wind of change that's blowing through the Sahel and we don't know where it's heading. We hope it's coming towards Amazonia. But what that said, I mean, for so long, Dr. Ngwambe, Africa is entering this new age. It is entering this new age, and I like what I see. I like what I see. A new age with a new crop of leaders, young, dynamic, patriotic leaders who have witnessed, they've observed their brothers and sisters die in the desert while trying to cross the ocean to Europe, or some dying in the jungles of Mexico while trying to get to the USA, you see, through Mexico. And some have been deceived and taken into the Middle East just to be extorted as sex slaves, or to have their body parts, or to be killed and to have their body parts harvested for transplant. We have seen that happen to our brothers and sisters. They have seen others tricked and taken into the Middle East for all kinds of things. We saw pictures of some being molested up north in the desert. Even while they were trying to cross, they were being tortured there. Dogs were released on them to eat them alive. That is what our people are going through. And these new leaders, they have watched their resources carted away by these very people who go up there when these people are desperate and are riding on these floatable boats into Europe. They shoot them and they sink them and they kill them in the ocean. These very people who are stealing our resources, they do that. Frank's taking the lead. And these leaders have become sick and tired of watching their resources carted away by this vampire called Franks, and they are saying enough with this. They have seen their infrastructure fall apart. Even as their resources are taken to develop other foreign lands. The list is long, but this is what is driving this new wave of change, as people have complained over and over about the very exploitatory tendencies of France on the African continent. We saw of recent Macron running all over Africa, trying to sit there and take all the rage that people were throwing on him, thinking that people would simply vent out and let things go. But that was just the beginning of things to come, and the manifestation is beginning to show. And France is beginning to feel the heat. So, Dr. Ngwambe, I have said I like what I see, and I cannot wait until it gets to the shores of Amazonia. But we have started it, and it will get there. But I don't know, what is your interpretation of what is happening now? And where do you think it is going? And what will those who have been so used to taking Africa for granted, what will they do now? Especially with their enablers, some of their enablers on the continent who call themselves leaders, but they are enabling the very exploitation of their own people. Where do you think this trend is going?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing now in Africa, especially in the former French colonies, is not a surprise to me. These countries were not created for the benefit of African people. They were not. And because they were not created for the benefit of African people, for people like you and me and our brothers and sisters, France in particular selected traitors to be the leaders of some of these countries at independence, and then gave them, a dictatorial constitution that they could use, help train a murderous secret police force, and gave it to these, let me call them plantation managers, who would do everything in their power to do everything to benefit France. So as African people, we've gotten more education, we've been able to see the world, the advent of the internet, where a lot more information is being able to be sent into our homes, into our phones, which we carry everywhere with us. Non-traditional media, for example, what you and I are doing, Tom Mike, what our brother Comrade Chris is doing, That's non-traditional media. And because of this non-traditional media, real news, real information is being able to be disseminated down to our population. And because of these things, African people are getting much more wiser about how their countries are being mismanaged. So some of these things that are happening now is not a surprise to me. I look at it and I'll kind of say it's the Francis goose is evil goose, mind you, it's an evil goose is getting cooked. You know, Africans, especially Africans in French African countries, aren't going to take this nonsense anymore. You know, I want to give kudos to, you know, Ibrahim Traore. Let me see, what's the other guy's name? Colonel Assimi Goita, and even our brother in Niger, who is Comrade Chiani, for taking over their countries and standing up to France. But here's the situation, my brothers. It is not that democracy has failed, because I was watching My Media Prime yesterday, and they had a very intellectually dishonest debate on there about democracy as being failed and all kinds of nonsense that some of the speakers on there were saying. The only person who came on and added some sanity was our brother Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. But it's not that democracy has failed. Is that the type of system that was given to these African countries was not there to give power to the people. It was there to give power to these plantation managers so that they could rig their elections and all types of things like that. So what I would say to our brothers who have taken over these countries is that work with those democracies in Africa, right, to set up a system that decentralizes how elections are run in your country. As a matter of fact, I would even say move away from this presidential system, because one of the things that is even messing up a lot of African countries, this presidential system where after a leader has failed for a certain amount of time and people get tired of that person's management style, they find it difficult for that person's government to collapse. But if you were in a parliamentary democracy where you had a prime minister and that prime minister was not able to achieve a particular agenda based on the coalitions that he has built in that parliament, a new election would happen. Parliamentary democracy.
Dr. Gwambe, you know one thing that is so frustrating is the fact that you find organizations that are within the African continent, organizations that are supposed to uphold the rule of law, that are supposed to work for the protection of the people they claim to lead, being the enablers. I'm here talking about the AU. I'm here talking about the groups like the ECOWAS. You find these people who will stand up now and try to criticize people who are trying to do what is right for their people. But yet, when you see these people who manipulate the constitution, change the constitution time and time again to stay in power indefinitely, like the walking dead zombie phobia, these people don't say a word. They don't say a word. But when you find a courageous leader who is trying to do what is right for his people, like this guy of Burkina Faso, I mean, I'm beginning to believe that name Burkina Faso, which is I think it's called the Land of the Righteous, is a befitting name, because Sankara came out of Burkina Faso. Now we're finding this Traore guy who is following the footsteps of Sankara. I mean, there's something to be for us to emulate. And again, back to France, which is that is our main perpetrator of this injustice on Africa. They killed Sankara. We are waiting for them. Let them touch this guy now again. If they know that they can do whatever they want and get away with it, let them touch any of these guys. Let them try to do anything to them and see how Africa will boil up. Let them try doing anything to them. So I would like for us to watch this video of Idris Deby, when he confessed that France has been responsible for the manipulation of all the constitutions to keep these sit-tight leaders, especially in French Africa. That he confessed, and I'm sure it's the reason why he was killed. You see, when you start speaking out, they kill you. I don't know if we can watch that. I know it's in French, but we will translate it. Idris Deby, he confessed that France is responsible. France manipulated his own constitution to be changed without even his consent. That's what he said.
Bro,
I don't know if...
I mean, you know, one thing we need to take a look at, right? Ask Emmanuel Macron, Paul Biya's best friend, if Emmanuel Macron can manipulate his own constitution in France to keep him in power, like what Paul Biya has done for time immemorial, and they've stood there and they've shaken his hand, they've embraced him. Now these are brothers in Guinea, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali. They've stood up to this manipulation. Don't get me wrong. I don't like military coups. And I don't like constitutional civilian coups either, where people stay in power, they manipulate their constitutions to stay in power. But this is what you get when you have this kind of, people who are taking advantage of the system, and they surround themselves with people who will enable them to take advantage of the system. And the only solution to it is that these people who have taken over their countries do a comprehensive conversation with your populations for you all to develop a system that actually can cause peaceful power change when the leaders are not delivering. Because that's the biggest reason why some of these things are happening. The leaders are not delivering, and people get frustrated that we're going to take 2 more years of this guy in power when we already know that he cannot deliver. We should put a system in place that can make it easier to remove that person.
You see, one thing is ECOWAS came in and they thought they could bully these guys into stepping aside. And what happened? The other countries rallied around them, and even other countries that have not even experienced it, they rallied around them and said, if you attack them, you're attacking us. And what did they do? They were forced now to back down. They put their tails between their legs and they back down, and they are trying now to negotiate. And I think this is a new lesson that we are coming together, forming a team, and fighting as a group is the way to go. Because when going solo, they can easily gang up on you and bully you into silence. But when Guinea, Mali, and Burkina Faso, when they came together and said, you know what, if you attack one of us, you attack all of us. That is how you become powerful. That is how you become powerful. And that is why they don't want Africa to unite. That is why they don't want Africa to unite, because when Africa unites, they will not be able to come in and bully you around and steal your resources. They want us to remain fragmented and not even to be able to trade with each other. Finish your thought there, Dr. Mwame.
So, one of the things I was really surprised about is our brother, the president of Nigeria, President Tinubu, coming in to almost be as if he wants to do the bidding of France. And I have to ask myself, to these ECOWAS and President Tinubu in particular, Mr. President of Nigeria, France manipulated President Ouattara of Ivory Coast to destroy the economic currency that you all were trying to put together.
Yes.
They manipulated these French African countries to come and destroy this currency that West African countries were trying to put together. And then now when our African brothers have stood up against France, instead of you saying, okay, look, I don't like military coups, I'm going to help you all put in a democracy. I'm going to work with you all to put in a democracy. But instead of you trying to work with your brothers to put in a good democratic, you wants to go and fight them and bring them down when they're standing up against France. France, who has subjugated these people and has also minimized our ability of African people to be able to come together, because they use stooges like Ouattara of Ivory Coast and other French African stooges to mess up our economies. The best way for our brother, President Tinubu of Nigeria, to save face in this matter is to say, you know what, I stand with the principles that what these our brothers in the Sahel are trying to do. We're going to support them to help all of Africa break the chains of French colonialism and French economic imperialism on us. And once we have done that, I as Nigeria, the leading democracy with Ghana in West Africa, we are going to help these countries put in the democratic institutions that they need to make sure that they have good democracies. Because one of the issues about the democracies
you mentioned
Western influence.
You mentioned a very good.
French influenced democracies will fail. If it's an African influenced democracy by countries like Nigeria and Ghana, they will have a lot more success. And that's what our brother President Tinubu of Nigeria should be doing.
That is what he should be doing, but that is not what he is doing. And you mentioned a very good point there, because you remember how many times Macron was shuttling into Africa when the ECO currency was being discussed. It was almost towards the end. He kept shuttling into Africa, going to Ivory Coast, going to Senegal, going to wherever he could go, and he finally destroyed it. And I'm asking these leaders, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? France abandoned the French franc and joined the euro, and they are using the euro, even as they are compelling African countries to continue using the very worthless, devalued version of the French franc. And then when you have the opportunity of coming up with your own currency, they fly in and tell you, no, you know what? As much as we are enjoying the benefits of a euro that is powerful, we don't want you to enjoy it. And these knuckleheads who call themselves leaders, they bow down and they say, yes, this is what I mean. It's so annoying. It's so vexing, when you see blatant deception. But should we be deceived at this point in time in our lives? Should we still allow ourselves to be manipulated? That you have somebody is benefiting from something, but telling you, no, it is good for me, but it's not good for you. And people accept it, and they call themselves leaders. Dr. Ngwambe, your final thoughts there. It's just so annoying just thinking about some of these things, I tell you.
My final thought on this matter is that I want to give a lot of respect to the Italian Prime Minister. Her name is Giorgia Meloni, because she has been speaking up against this, and not necessarily speaking up for the fact that she loves Africans so much or anything like that, but speaking up for the simple fact that she recognizes, like all of us red-blooded Africans recognize, that it is because of France manipulation, France sucking African countries dry, that it's France economic impoverishment that is causing the underdevelopment of African countries, and then pushing our brothers from African countries to flee the homeland and flock and die in the Mediterranean. They reach to Italy. They're, inside of Italy, taking advantage of the economic opportunities that Italy has tried to make for its own citizens, and it's all France's fault. So I really want to appreciate the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni for the things that she has been standing up and saying. And what I would like to add on to that is that, to these our brothers, and to the president of Nigeria, you all need to work together, and you all need to find allies in Europe, people like this PM Giorgia Meloni, to help develop programs that is going to cause France to take its foot off of the African man and woman's neck. Because if we were able to have better, economic contracts, get rid of this colonial French accord that was created, so that we can have more of our money inside of our countries to develop our countries, our people wouldn't be fleeing to go abroad, to remain abroad, to seek greener pastures. The most we would do is come abroad, get the education, get a little bit of experience, and then go back home. And then we'd be able to create trade opportunities and business opportunities where we benefit, and then the Western corporations benefit, so that our people don't have to flee our countries. So that is my best advice that I can give to you all. My brothers, I beg, work together and seek allies who understand what you all are fighting for. Thank you, Tamai.
Thank you, Dr. Ngwabe. Like you said, I don't like military rule myself. But if this is what it would take to kick France out of Africa, so be it. So be it.
Yes.
I wish that the drunkards in La République du Cameroon, who only know how to get their salaries, go drink drunk, gamble the rest, then go home and beat on their wives, I wish they could stand up and do something similar to save their country from these walking zombies that are walking around calling themselves leaders out there. I wish they could do that. But before we go, I just want to read some of the agreements, some of the items in the agreement that France had with its French colonies. Let me see here. I'll call you later. I can't.
I mean, look at the popular support that this.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Yeah, Tamak, I was going to say, look at the popular support that these gentlemen have inside of La République du Cameroon. there is a huge anti-France sentiment that exists there. And even in Ambazonia, there's a huge anti-France sentiment that exists in Ambazonia. And as if you know, that is even one of the reasons why the late Nijon Frundi was not able to take over La République, the once united La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia, because France knew that there was that anti-French sentiment there. But inside of La République du Cameroon right now, there is an anti-French sentiment that if the generals, if the commanders of the BIA, if the commanders of the Presidential Guard at Etudi, if they took over the country right now, if they took over La République du Cameroon right now, they would get this kind of popular support that we see our brothers in Niger, in Niger, I'm sorry, my mispronunciation, Niger, Burkina Faso, and the rest that they would have. Bro, your mic be.
Yeah, my audio.
Okay.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now. You're good now.
All right. Okay. So let me just read some of those very I don't know how to call it. I don't want to. I can't believe that people with their eyes wide open will sign something like this and call it an agreement. But let me just read a few of them just to put what we are talking about into context. Article number 6 of the cooperation agreement between France and Cameroon reads: France shall determine Cameroon's political, economic, and socio-cultural orientation. Just imagine that. France shall manufacture money for Cameroon, the CFA franc. France prints your money. You don't have the right to print your own currency. If that is not giving your hands to be tied, I don't know what that is. Number 3, France shall guide the determination of Cameroon's educational programs at all levels. While other countries are formatting or deciding what their children learn, you depend on France to tell you what your own child should study. I want Brazilians to understand what we're going through. So while they can present the best kind of curricula for their own children to advance, they give us archaic stuff. They tell us to go and draw a grasshopper and name his parts. That is our own education. And then we sit there and we accept it. And there are people there bowing their heads, calling themselves doctors and professors and saying, yes, it's okay. Now, the French public treasury shall have a portfolio named operations account to cover 100% of Cameroon's foreign exchange. Now, I think it was revised. This percentage has been revised to 65 in 1972 and in 1973 in Brazzaville and Dakar for Biak, and respectively, it has been respectively revised down to 50% today. It's now 50%, but it started at 100%. That still should not even apply. They should not even keep 10% under normal circumstances. France shall be given priority in the exploitation of Cameroon's strategic raw materials. In the event where France is not interested, Cameroon may seek other partners or exploit the raw materials herself. Hear that? That means, oh God, Lord have mercy. That means even you yourself, you are not supposed to exploit it. It is only when France is not interested that you, the host country, can now exploit it or give it to someone else. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Now, the last and the most draconian one. The military assistance, each time that the Cameroonian president is overwhelmed by an external aggression or internal rebellion, he may call on the French military assistance. In the event where the Cameroonian president is unable to seek this assistance by any form or communication, the French ambassador to Cameroon can make the request instead of the Cameroonian authorities. What is that? What does that tell you? That simply tells you that it is the French ambassador who is in charge. Because when you allow yourself to sign such a thing, the French ambassador, if you are doing something the French ambassador does not like, he may simply say, you know what, the Cameroonian president cannot exercise his power. So by the terms of this accord, I have to make that decision for him. He has to go. You see, or whatever decision that the French ambassador thinks is in the best interest of France. And one thing that is so annoying when you listen to the arrogance of these people is we are protecting our interest. We are protecting our interest. You are protecting you're protecting your interest on my soil, in my land. You leave your country, France, and you want to come and protect your interest on my own soil. Like in Niger, they said they're protecting their interest in Niger. Who gave you that right? Who gave you that audacity to leave your own country, cross the ocean, go to Niger to protect your interest? Who gave you that interest there? So it is. I just wanted to at least read this few. If you want to make a few comments, and I'll bring in, and we'll have to bring in the panel for the press conference. I know they've been waiting. So your final comments, I'll move there. There's a lot. We will come back to this topic because it's so rich, and we will come back to it to continue to exploit, to expose the evils of France in Africa. But your final thoughts before we move on to the conference.
The one that is the funniest that you did not list on there, but it also falls in line with that, bro, is this issue that France has the right to any contracts of construction contracts in La Republique du Cameroon and in other French African colonies before anybody else. That means all this time when we in Ambazonia, we were expecting that they would have built our Menchum Falls. They cannot come and do it because France has to come and do it. But my fellow Ambazonians, we're not going to have it like that. In our own country, we're even going to go and talk to the Ethiopians and find out, hey, how did you all do that? The dam that you all did in Ethiopia? Can you all give us the contact information for the people who did your dam for you, so that we can investigate it and bring them to do feasibility studies for us? And maybe while they're doing, not even maybe, while they're doing it, we'll be even observing in the corner so that we can be able to maintain that dam when it is built. My fellow Ambazonians, we're going to have a much better country than Francophone Africa, than any Francophone African country, because we are observing from their mistakes, and we are people who learn from the mistakes of others without us having to go through it ourselves. That is just the plain, simple truth about it. Thank you.
And just before we go, the one of the very basic thing is, imagine as basic as education at all levels. That means if you are like we're growing up, if you want to study physics, and someone sits in France and say, nope, you know what, you're not going to study that, and that's it. There's nothing you can do about it because they draw your educational program. I mean, how can you advance in such a country and compete with the rest of the world when you have given your hands to be tied by those people you are supposed to compete against? How can you compete? You can't. So I would like to bring in the rest of our panel so we can carry on with this press conference by the coordination team of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia conference, where they are trying to put together a conference that is all inclusive, that involves everybody, so we can sit down and discuss how we are going to take back our country. So I would like to call on, I don't know if Comrade Mark Chaps is here. I don't know if Mike Gertrude should be here, and Dr. Fondi, they should be joining us here to discuss or to tell us what they have. They have to first of all tell us why they are here on ABS today and what they are planning. So, Comrade Mark Chaps, are you there, please? If so, let me see you. What about Mark Gertrude? Mark Gertrude, are you there? Dr. Fondi? Okay, just sit tight, and the program is coming on. Just sit tight, don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back here. We're back. Just sit tight, fellow viewers. I'm bringing in my panel now to talk about the press conference. The press conference, I believe Margaret is here now. A few moments ago, I was told that Comrade Mark Chaps was trying to connect. I hope he's in now. Dr. Ngwambe, I hope you're still sitting tight. We can keep on talking while, and probably Margaret can even take the lead. Dr. Fondy, maybe he's still. Okay. Comrade Mark Chaps, I can hear your voice. Yeah, come on. All right, that's good. That's good. Comrade Mark Chaps, say hello to our viewers.
Greetings, fellow viewers, fellow Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians. I salute you all. 21 gun salute to our valiant patriots, those protecting our communities and keeping our people safe.
Thank you, and welcome, Comrade. Mark Gertrude, if you are there, please let me see you.
I'm here.
All right.
Greetings, everybody. Yeah, I'm here. I wish to thank everybody who has tuned in today to listen to what we have to say. It's going to be interesting, enlightening, and showing a way forward that everybody has been craving for. So, thanks everybody who has logged in. Please invite more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Gertrude, and thank you to you, Comrade Mark Church. Yes, like I mentioned at the start of the program, the third and the most very important item on this show today is a press conference, which is why you are here. You have some information for Ambazonians, and you can see they are anticipating what you have to say. They are anxious, and just as a reminder to those to our viewers, if you have any question that you want to ask this coordination team, make sure that you have your question ready, formulated, be ready. We will give you the chance to call in and to ask your question so that you get the right answer from those who are coordinating this eventual all Amber, all Southern Cameroon's conference. So I will not waste any more time. I think we were a bit delayed at the start, so we're running a little bit late. So I'll pass it over to Comrade Mark Chaps. Why don't you take the lead and tell us why are you here? Why are you on ABS TV today? And what do you have to tell Ambazonians who are listening or watching you right now?
Comrade, for having us on. I will just read right from our press release so that the information is put squarely out there for all to hear and to understand. The Republic of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, is currently under siege. Since 2017, our country has been invaded by an aggressive neighbor, La République du Cameroon, following an annexation which began in 1961. The conflict has triggered a humanitarian catastrophe which has seen more than 400 villages razed to the ground, with at least 1 million Southern Cameroonians internally displaced. About 1 million more have fled to neighboring countries as refugees. Since 2018, the international media has surprisingly been silent about the death toll, which can be estimated at more than 30,000, with the victims being mostly women, children, and the elderly. There is a need to awaken the international community to respond to this conflict. The people of the Republic of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, are unanimous that the population is desperate and in deep suffering, and believe that there is need to hasten the freedom of the homeland. They would like a more
Oh, I hope the program has not crashed. I don't know what happened to Comrade Mark Chaps.
We're still there.
Are you still there?
Yeah, na it is like saying na Chipsy side.
Yes. It seems
Okay.
he's frozen. Current Mark Chaps, you are frozen. If you can log off and log back on, then pick up from where you left off. That would be great. Meanwhile, while we wait for Current Mark Chaps to come back on, I would like for Margaret, maybe she can say something, even if it means trying to explain what is being read there before we get to it again. Margaret, why don't you fill the air while we wait for Comrade Mark Chaps to come back on?
Okay, thank you very much. Basically, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to bring all Ambazonians together so that we can start fighting, we can start chatting our way, saying what it is that we want. A couple of months ago, an international organization assisted us to make us see the way, see how we can put ourselves together. And we had a series of workshops which assisted us in learning how we can get ourselves together so that we can talk with one voice. And with that taking place, we have since followed the teachings, the lessons that they've taught us, and we are trying to build up what we have to do. So now we are having a series of consultations. We will start from Maryland from the 24th, which is a Friday, to the 25th of this month. We'll have consultative meetings where everybody is invited, because we are not going to do things and dictate to people. We are going to have everybody come and say what they think, how we should go forward. And after that, we are going to go to some other number of states to meet people and have people talk. So it is a consultative approach that we are using, so that nobody is going to say they just prepared something and we didn't have an input. We want the input of all Ambazonians. So by the end of the day, when we have an all Ambazonia come together, we have a conference where we have to decide or chart our way forward. Everybody is going to know that they had an input in it.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. And I don't know if Comrade Mark Chaps is back. Um, if you're back, Comrade Mark Chaps, just let us know so we can bring you back on. But like what you have just said there, it is understood that we have had previous initiatives at bringing Ambazonians together for an all Amber conference, but these initiatives have not succeeded. Um, from what you are saying, it would therefore imply that you have learned from the past. You are conducting maybe a lessons learned exercise and learning from the past, where decisions seem to have been top down, driven down to the people without the involvement of the people in shaping how that conference ought to be, or who ought to be participating in that conference. So what you are saying now is that you have learned from the errors of the past, and you are now trying to make sure that you correct these mistakes, so that this time around it should be a bottoms up approach where people are duly consulted as to what they want to see as being the all about conference, than having it driven down to them from a few individuals who assume to know it all for everybody. Is that what you're telling us here, Margaret?
Yeah, that's very correct. And I want to let you know that we have members of various groups, of several groups are represented. So it is not a thing that only a few people went and sat in a back room and decided on what to do. It's a group of different groups that have come together.
Organizations.
Yes, other organizations, political pressure groups have come together and have decided, well, we want to work together, we want to forget our differences. What binds us is more than what pulls us apart. So we have people from all the several organizations coming in and working together, and that's why it's going to be very interesting for people to come and hear what we have learned, and for us to examine ourselves, because the workshop that we had was very eye-opening to us. It made us realize some of the things that we are doing wrong, and we are hoping that when our friends, our comrades come in, they are going to see how we are going to explain it to them, that yes, we've been doing things in the wrong way, and we have to examine ourselves, because if you don't start by examining yourself, you cannot correct somebody, you cannot criticize somebody that are wrong or right. So it is not, we are not coming to tell people what to do, we are coming to ask people to share, to contribute. Thank you.
Okay, I would take your own input too, very soon, Dr. Ngombe. During one of your exercises, we are told that the exercises you took part in your training was something called mapping, whereby it enabled you to identify those organizations that you ought to reach out to, which will now be involved in this exercise that you are now planning. You say it was the 24th and 25th. So, can you explain to us a little bit what this mapping is all about? What is mapping?
um I saw Comrade Chebs on, if you know.
Okay,
Well,
if it's on,
yeah, I saw him
Comrade
on,
Chaps,
but if it's not on, I'll take it. Okay.
I think he's still
Oh,
kind of
he's still
frozen.
frozen.
He's frozen.
Okay.
I,
The mapping
yeah.
was an exercise where we had to put different organization, different political pressure groups, and then we are supposed to look at our relationship, the relationship with one group and with the other, one group and the others, and then for you to see whether you have any relationship. If you don't have, just like we have international organizations that we think we can reach out to, what relationship do we have? If you see that you don't have relationship with another group, how do you think we can work together to attain our goal? So this is a way that explains things to us, that it makes it graphically easy for us to understand where we are going wrong, where we have fallen short, that there are different groups and they are isolated. We are not working together. So the more we see all these kinds of things, we realize that we are failing, and then we will start to bridge that gap. We will start to see how working together gives us strength, that we can accomplish our goal, which is to get to Boya.
Okay. Thank you, there, Margaret, for that explanation, which implies that this mapping was a form of identifying the various groups within our struggle, and identifying the relationships between them, both the good ones and the bad ones, and see where efforts need to be made in order to improve those relationships that are kind of weak, and take advantage of those to make sure that the network is properly interlinked. I believe that's what you're saying there. Dr. Wambe, I know you are not actually a member of this coordination team, but you are here with us, and I want you to give your own appraisal of this initiative by the coordination team to make sure that they do a more consultative kind of outreach to our various organizations involved in the liberation of the Southern Cameroons to make sure that errors of the past are corrected for a more successful All Amber Conference in the near future. Can you give us your appraisal of this initiative?
Yes, so like my appraisal of this initiative is that I'm 100% in support of this initiative because as you and I know and Maji knows and Comrade Chebs and Dr. Fondi, we all know and everyone that's watching us know that collaboration is not an easy thing, especially with some of the things that have happened in the past. And mind you, some of the things that have happened in the past, some of those decisions were based on what I would consider reasonable principles. But I'm not going to litigate that here. That's another show. So I'm glad that there have been institutions that have been able to step up and teach we, the Ambazonians, those techniques and some of those tools that can help us to realize that, hey, though you may like to eat achu soup and someone likes chutu, that's mashed potatoes with beans and palm oil, and someone else likes to eat watafufu and arrow and dole and plant. Because even irrespective of the fact that we like to eat all these different things, but guess what? Those are all Ambazonian dishes. And because those are all Ambazonian dishes, that means there's something that we all can unite around and push forward together, even though we like to eat all these different dishes. Personally, I like them all. I eat them all, so I don't have a problem. But for those who are having that problem, this particular setup has provided an opportunity for people to come and learn about each individual person's unique dish, how nice it tastes, and they were able to figure it out and find a way to work forward together. So I really applaud those of you who've been able to attend these plenary sessions, those of you who have gone there and argued with each other, because I know it wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't at all.
I know
it wasn't.
I know it wasn't easy. So I appreciate you all for your strong will, for sticking through it, for being able to voice your opinions, and for still being able to come out and say we are Ambazonians, and I'm going to hold the hand of my fellow Ambazonian so that we can go further together. So this is a good initiative. It's not easy, but we are getting there, my fellow Ambazonians. That's even my pleasure when I see this, is we are getting there. It's just unfortunate that we're not able to get our brother Dr. Fondi on and Mark Chebs on, so they can really be the ones to explain in detail what you all have been.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Mark Chebs' connection. It just froze there, and he must have maybe an internet connection there. I think he's coming back. He's coming back. Okay, while he's coming back, let me just read this press release, which was press release issue number 2, 7th August 2023. The general public and prospective attendees of the forthcoming Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia consultation are hereby informed that the initial date of the event, billed for Wednesday, the 23rd Wednesday the 23rd to Friday the 25th August, has been changed to Thursday the 24th to Saturday the 26th, 2023. This adjustment is made to accommodate the clamor of our compatriots who will only be fully available by the weekend. We regret the inconvenience this change may cause. So this is simply informing us that the initial date, which was the Wednesday, has been moved to Thursday to Saturday. That's simply what this statement here is saying. So I think Comrade Mark Chebs is back on. If you are well seated, Comrade Mark Chebs, we would like for you to pick up from where you left off, or if you want to start all over again, it's up to you. If you are ready, please, we would like for you to give us the message that you were about giving before your line was frozen. Comrade Mark Chebs, are you on now? Your audio. Just keep speaking. Let me see if it's on. I cannot hear you. I can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Despite, though the image is a bit dark, but that's all right. If we can hear you, that would be nice. Yeah, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. I would like for Comrade Marchev to go through with his presentation because during the course of this show, as I said initially, we are going to take some questions from the public as to what they think about this whole initiative. We would like to get their own perspective on this initiative and this new push to make sure that people are listened to. A lot of times the reason why people fail is because they don't listen to the masses. So this is an initiative where there's an effort to listen to the masses and to hear from them before going ahead to call any conference. You can't just go ahead and call a conference and just have a few individuals making the decisions without reaching out to the people and finding out what exactly they want, what outcome they should expect from an all Ambazonia conference. A conference is not just a formality. There should be an anticipated outcome for it that meets the aspirations of the people for a free and democratic Ambazonia. So again, we are waiting for Comrade Cheps to get his connection corrected. We can see him, but we can't hear him. I hope that situation is corrected so he can join us. I don't know. Is there anything more you want to say while we wait for Comrade Marchel to come on, Margaret? You are a member of the coordination team. I'm sure you have more information to share with us. And I hope you are ready for the questions that will be coming in from our viewers later on. Please write your questions, get them ready. We will put the phone number here at some point, not long from now, and you can call in and ask your questions or make a contribution as to what you want to see from an all Ambazonia conference. How should it be conducted? Maybe you want to see it. Okay, I see Colonel Mark Jeps is back, looking very bright and ready to go. So I will pass the microphone to you again. Please carry on from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry about that. My internet kind of went down. So I was speaking and then realized at some point that I was frozen. And then I was trying to get that set up. So if you would just, if you don't mind reminding me, where were we? Where did I stop? Did I get through the press?
I think it will be better if you just start all over so people can get the full story. Yeah.
Okay. No problem. All right, I'll take it over again.
All right.
This is a lesson in trying again and never quitting.
Yes.
So, as I was saying, we have a press statement that sets up, summarizes what this is all about. I'll just read from it and then we'll proceed with the conversation. The Republic of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia is currently under siege. Since 2017, our country has been invaded by an aggressive neighbor, La République du Cameroon, following an annexation which began in 1961. The conflict has triggered a humanitarian catastrophe which has seen more than 400 villages razed to the ground, with at least 1 million Southern Cameroonians internally displaced. About 1 million more have fled to neighboring countries as refugees. Since 2018, the international media has surprisingly been silent about the death toll, which can be estimated at more than 30,000, with the victims being mostly women, children, and the elderly. There is a need to awaken the international community to respond to this conflict appropriately. The people of the Republic of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia are unanimous that the population is desperate and in deep suffering, and believes that there is a need to hasten the freedom of the homeland. They would like a more fraternal, progressive, and coordinated approach to the liberation struggle. Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians want a united, purposeful quest for freedom that is inclusive and result-oriented. It has thus become imperative for us to consult with each other and to lay a firm foundation for a strategic consensus. To this end, a series of consultations have been convened beginning with a consultation in Maryland, the Maryland Consultative Conference, billed for August 24th to the 26th. Other consultations will continue and will culminate in a grand conference of all indigenes from the Republic of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. As we meet in Maryland and subsequently, our purpose is no less than two. One, identify ways to reconcile the differences and dysfunctionalities that have hindered our ability to express our nationhood or pursue our collective vision and aspirations in unison. Two, restitch the community by creating an opportunity for Ambazonians to meet and share their journey through the liberation struggle, and by so doing, consolidate our common vision. Three, establish principles that promote greater unity, self-discipline, and constructive engagement by all individuals towards a common vision. Four, create a framework that articulates our collective vision and outlines the implementation process while defining and effectively communicating the role of every Southern Cameroonian and Ambazonian involved. All Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians of goodwill, professionals, political groups, communities are invited to register and participate in these consultations. The consultations will be open, there will be closed sessions, there will be focus groups, there will be surveys, there will be workshops, all to the end of ensuring that all the voices of every Southern Cameroonian and Ambazonian is heard, and that their collective aspirations are reflected in the next steps we take towards our collective freedom.
All right, Mark Chaps, you finally got it through this time. It's good to have it all through from the start so that it's really fresh in people's minds. One thing that I got from that your presentation is the word consultation. Consultation. And why the emphasis on this word to me is because we understand that most of the times when people are chosen to serve as leaders, they tend to assume a posture of top down instead of bottoms up. But so I think it is impressive to know that you thought it necessary to go out, reach out to the people, and not just in one community, but you have said you are going to move from Maryland to other cities around, and maybe even internationally. And what methods are you going to use during this consultative effort? Is it going to be physical? Or are you going to use online tools like Zoom and others to communicate with those who, considering that Ambazonians are scattered all over the world? If I may ask, what method are you going to use to make sure that you reach as large a populace as possible of Ambazonians around the world?
That's a good question. So I just want to take us back a little bit. When this struggle began, let me say the latter phase of it, which is this phase that we are in 2016, a lot of people always make reference to that point as the starting point. But there was a lot that happened before that point, and there were a lot of political pressure groups that had existed. We know of many personalities within our polity who had been advocating for our freedom before that point. But what led to that boiling moment was the result of very targeted and coordinated consultations and coordination. Our populations did not just come out on the streets with peace plans, marching and demanding their freedom and dignity. There was consultation with trade unions, with various business groups, whether it be taxi drivers, unions, market women, and even the existing political pressure groups that existed for all of that to culminate in that moment. And so that is a lesson that we are learning and going back to. Uh, since then, we have become fractious because we have had a lot of groupism and other things that have derailed sort of this approach of being consultative. And in any ways, many governments today, many communities are applying the approach of consultative participatory democracy, participatory decision making in many things that they do, so that you have a legitimate basis, but you also have a foundation. And also, inclusion and diversity is very unique and it's very important in our society today because we have a myriad of voices and we have a very diverse group. We can all fit under one tent, but we have to recognize that diversity and ensure that we have appropriate representation of that diversity. Let people see themselves in the leaders that lead them. Let people see themselves reflected in the structures that govern them. Let people see themselves reflected in the decisions that are made about their futures. And that is why we employed, and this really came about as a result of a diverse group of Ambazonians from various sections or segments of our struggle coming together in a workshop and having a series of meetings. This started, I think, in April when this group, you now call the coordination team, started to meet online and then subsequently met with some of our international partners who facilitated dialogue. If you would look at the diversity of the group called the coordination group, you realize that we come from various segments of the struggle. So we didn't just come together. We had to come together. We had to talk out our differences. We had to hash out, a common vision. We had to agree. We had to disagree, agree at times to disagree. And all of that work is what culminated in us building interpersonal relationships with each other, but also buying into a vision that we think that our people, when presented with, will be able to buy into it because it represents what their best interest is. And therefore, it became imperative that in order for us to be able to determine how we move forward, we needed to undertake a consultation of the people. Let the people tell us what they want to see. Let the people tell us what they are feeling about this moment. Let them tell us about what their assessment is of the state of the struggle. And so when we bring all this data together, we will be able to reflect what the people want. It will not be Mark Chepsey's opinion. It will not be Dr. Nwambe's opinion on any given issue. It will not be Mark Gertrude's opinion. It will not be Mike Fusi's opinion. It will not be the IG. It will not be this group or that group's vision. It will be data-driven vision that reflects the collective aspiration, what people have said. And so in that regard, the consultation aims to be very comprehensive. We aim to employ all the tools that we can to reach all Ambazonian indigenous Southern Cameroonians wherever they are. Now, we know that it's going to be a costly endeavor, but we intend to employ all the tools to make this as affordable, as public, as accessible as possible. So, in that sense, that is why I said we will go to community to consult with them. We will go to organizations to consult with them. We will make sure that there are opportunities available in meetings that are scheduled. We will have a schedule. In fact, we do have a schedule, and we will be sharing enough more information with Ambazonians subsequently as we unveil what this consultation entails. But people will be able to attend scheduled meetings online strictly for the purposes of participating and providing feedback with respect to specific issues and questions. So it's not just going to be meetings where we come and talk and talk and talk. We will facilitate workshops where we will deal with particular issues. And at the conclusion of that workshop, people will be able to provide feedback based on what they have learned in participating in that workshop. And that feedback will be gathered and aid in our overall objectives. we will design surveys. In fact, we already have some surveys out as part of our unveiling of the consultations, where we ask
Mm-hmm.
specific questions that we have heard. These questions are not coming from us. These are questions that Ambazonians are asking themselves and asking their leaders and asking their friends in community in conversation. So some of those questions are there in a survey. We encourage everybody. It is safe. It is secure. Fill the questionnaire, do it wholeheartedly, be truthful to yourself, be truthful to the cause, and answer in a very honest manner, because that is important, so that we know what the problems are and we can collectively find the solutions to the problems. We hope to reach people on ground zero, and we are going to make every effort to do that. That was part of the exercises that we learned when this team of coordinators got together and had a facilitated series of workshops that developed our capacity to be able to do this type of work. So we know the tools that we need to use to reach our people far and wide. We're going to employ those tools, but we also are relying on our people to be able to spread the word, to be able to tell their neighbors, to be able to tell their friends, to be able to tell their family members that this is a consultation. You're not going to be exposed. We are very, very particular about privacy, people's privacy,
Mm-hmm.
confidentiality. We understand the dangers of the struggle. So this is a very well thought out approach, and we want people to trust what we are doing, and we will present the results of this consultation publicly for Ambazonians to see. They'll be able to see what this consultation has garnered. And then based on that, we will be able to now determine our next steps. As we said, this will all culminate in a grand conference, but that is far away. I think for now, the focus is to listen in, hear what Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians are saying, take that feedback, challenge them with some questions, get their response, bring them into some workshops, do some scenario planning, see how they respond to those scenarios, gather all of this feedback, and then we will present a very detailed report at the end of it. And when I say we, just for the sake of clarity, I'm not saying me. Um, we are thinking about a very deliberate approach that is inclusive, that is expansive, and that reflects a cross section of our Amazonian, Southern Cameroonian polity. So, to that end, the very first consultation that we're having in Maryland is really going to set the stage for the unveiling of what this consultative process is all about. We're going to present the framework. People are going to be able to uh, put in some input, discuss that, and then we will move from there.
Oh, thank you very much for that elaborate explanation there, Comrade McChurch. I hope Ambazonians are listening and taking notes for the opportunity to ask their questions when the opportunity arises later on during the show. Um, I would like to ask this. We understand that Ambazonians are a diverse group of people with varying opinions, and so the question I'll ask you, and let me direct this to Margaret, is this. Given this diversity of views amongst the Ambazonian people, what criteria do you have for participation into this, first of all, consultative initiative and eventually the All Ambazonian Conference? Is there any criteria that participants must meet in order to take part in these efforts?
Thank you, Comrade Mike. The main criteria that we have is that you have to be an Ambazonian and that you believe in Ambazonia, that we have to be a separate entity. Anybody who is a federalist or those people who believe in one Cameroon, those are not the people that we need in this conference. This is for us who want to build an Ambazonia. So if you know that you want an Ambazonia, which is separate from La République du Cameroon in every possible way, no federation, no special status, just Ambazonia as an entity, then you are welcome to this conference. So I think that is the main criteria that we want. All everybody who believes that we have to rule ourselves, that Amazonia is a country that we can have our own country and carry on our mission. If you believe in that, you are welcome to this conference.
Thank you for that response, Margaret. I know that Dr. Ngwambe is not part of the coordination team, but I would like I would like to hear from him what he thinks about that very answer. Dr. Ngwambe, what would you like, being an outsider in this discussion? What would you like to be the criteria for participation in any of these initiatives, be it the consultative phase of it or an eventual all Ambazonian conference? What do you think should be the criteria for participants?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree that it should be those who are Ambazonian, especially those who are pro-independence minded Ambazonians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you all are open to the idea of people who may not be of Ambazonian descent, but they are sympathizers of Ambazonian. But I can understand if the concern is how do we, filter those kind of people out, and really this is really a discussion for us. So, given the prerequisites you guys are giving now, I am perfectly comfortable with that. Let us Ambazonians learn how to talk to each other. Let's get our act together first before we start inviting people to the house. That kind of thing where you want to bring people in for house, no, but you clean your house, but you want to bring people in inside house. It don't make sense.
No.
So,
and to that point, there, Dr. Gwambe, let me spice it up a little bit. There are some amongst us who sing Ambazonian with us, and they sing our anthem and they say all the good things, but their actions are not in line with the aspirations of free and liberated Southern Cameroons. How do we treat those?
For me personally, look, we all know the saying now. We know the saying: if you betray your brother for some other person, even that person, no, ego last flush you out, ego last eliminate you, because if we trust you. Mm-hmm. So what do you want us to do with that? And besides, who are Ambazonians to screw up the tradition of what is done to traders? We know what France did to their own traders. Mm-hmm. We know even the prostitutes who were cavorting with the Nazis. We know what France did to their traders. We know what our American brothers and sisters did in their revolutionary war against Britain. What they did to their own traders. They tar and feathered them. You know what tar and feathering means? You know that tar where they used to put for top road now? They will pour that thing on top of that people, their skin, then roll that people inside, feather them. So just imagine what that does. Not only does it burn your skin, but then you get infections and then you eventually die. Mm-hmm. Who are we Amazonians to screw that tradition up by over soft heart? I don't know, Mio. So that's the way I look at people who are traders, to people who want to.
Okay.
Even
all right.
Who was trying to escape the freedom, if there were anybody who was trying to keep her from being able to liberate other enslaved Africans to take them up north or to Canada, she would eliminate them so that they would not keep them all in chains. So Ambazonians are not going to screw that tradition up of what is done to traders. That's the way I look at it.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that response, Dr. Mwambe. Back to you, Comrade McCheps. During your presentation, you talked about these consultative meetings that your group is putting together. Do you have a time frame for when you will start and finish the consultative phase of this process, and when you think we may actually have an eventual or Ambazonian conference? Do you have an estimate of when these things may happen?
That's a good question. And again, I want to say that this is a collective effort. So this is not my effort. So I don't make the decisions that pertain to these consultations. We want to be at a place where Ambazonians see themselves and see the people that come up to take efforts or initiatives in leadership, not as necessarily their leaders, but people who are trying to do what's right for homeland. And so, to that end, this is all what is going to be reflected in the framework. Now, just so people understand, a consultation is not a walk in the park. It's not just something that you do off the back of your hand. It has to be carefully thought out. It has to be deliberate. The intent needs to be clear. The objectives need to be clear, and the process, which is the most important, needs to be transparent. People need to see that this is something that is meaningful and that could lead to meaningful change. And for that to happen, it can't just be individuals determining willy-nilly when and where things occur. And that is why we are being very deliberate. We've put out this press statement announcing to Ambazonians that this is the approach we're going to use. So when we meet in Maryland, and subsequently before then, we will be able to present Ambazonians with a framework of with a framework and an initial framework of what we see as this process, and the structure of this. I've touched on a little bit of that. And subsequently, as the consultations are occurring, we will be updating that with the input and the feedback that are coming in. So to answer your question more pointedly, with respect to when an all Ambazonian conference might happen, that is going to be up to Ambazonians and how they respond to the consultations and the feedback.
All right, I think I like that answer. It's not like you're dictating to people; it has to come from the people. I think this is a fresh perspective, a fresh way of looking at things and doing things, which I hope Ambazonians embrace it more, instead of having this idea where people just sit and say, "Okay, do this," and they don't even reach out to find out what you think about it. I think I like that. Now, just to remind our viewers that in a few moments from now, maybe in about 10 minutes or something, 10 minutes, we may open the phone lines and take questions, so that the consultative team here can take your questions and answer them to your satisfaction, I hope. Now, the question I have for you, Margaret, and by extension, Comrade McChebs, is this. We understand that other initiatives have been tried before, and there are others who may even be ongoing. So my question to you both is this. What is your relationship with these other initiatives that are ongoing right now towards having Ambazonians come together? And have you had any effort at merging all these efforts so that Ambazonians just have one conference? Have you had that? Have you had any encounter with these other initiatives? And if you were able to have an agreement with all these other efforts out there, how would that affect this very important phase of consultations that you are doing towards an eventual conference, to make sure that at least you get the buy-in from the people so that they know that these ideas are coming from them as opposed to a top-down approach? So I would like, since your Comrade Mark just finished, why don't I allow Margetu to take a dig at it, and then you can follow up to that, Comrade Mark.
Okay. We have reached out before we even started. We reached out to individual groups, and we continue to attend their meetings that they've been holding. We've explained what it is that we are doing and our own approach, and we are still in consultation with other people who have planned conferences, and we've explained to them that it does not make sense for us to have a conference when we have not consulted the people. The people need to know that we need to have an input, like Comrade Cheps has explained. We need an input from the people. The people need to tell us what they want to see, what they want happen. And so when we have done that, then we can organize a conference We are not in competition. We are trying to get all Ambazonians to look at things from a fresh perspective, from a different way. And so we have attended conferences or meetings that have been held by the other groups. We have spoken to individual groups who are trying to have their own meetings, and so it's a working process. We are still doing it, and the good thing is that some people who already scheduled a conference, it is after we have the consultation. So hopefully when they attend this consultation, they are going to see that it is not in competition, it is not threatening, it is adding on, that we are actually doing the groundwork which will make the conference a resounding success. So it's not like there are going to be many conferences. If they see what we are doing and they like it and it makes sense, it is not only those people who have plan those conferences, but the general public. That is why we are inviting everybody. It is not some group, it is all Ambazonians. We are asking you guys to register and come. We want to have a full house. We want to see everybody who is a concerned Ambazonian, and I'm hoping that with the number of people who will come and the result of the information that will be shared in Washington, D.C., it's going to act as a springboard for when we go to other states, because the consultation is going to be from state to state. And so those who already are planning conferences will see that we are not threatening, we are trying to enhance what they are doing so that we can all come together and have one big conference that it will solve a problem, that will address all the issues that we have. So lastly, I know that you asked of the other groups, but I'm appealing to individuals. Please register and come. Register and come. Thank you.
Comrade Mike, I think since we are talking about a breath of fresh air, a new experience for Zonia, and part of the calculation in this consultation approach is to be very transparent. Transparency and accountability has been one of the two most elusive things in our struggle. And they breed a lot of dissent, a lot of animosity, and a lot of infighting. And so from the get-go, in this initiative, we identified that we had to be transparent, and we had to tell the Amazonian people as it is, even if they would disagree, or even if they would feel a little bit rattled by some of the truths. We still needed to speak those truths because it was the only way we are going to be able to come together, be able to reconcile, as it was said in the press statement, in the framework that was released. We have to reconcile our differences and dysfunctionalities. Reconciliation is a key part of this, but there can be no reconciliation without truth and honesty. And also, to come to reconciliation, you need mercy and forgiveness. So these are all components of it. And why am I saying this? Because I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background for the sake of transparency and to answer your question more pointedly. So yes, initiatives have been tried in the past, and they have failed or not been a resounding success as was the intent or was the vision. And so too was the early beginnings of what occurred here. So as people will recall, there was an AAC that had been announced from a number of groups that had been participants in the Canadian initiative. Subsequently, there was Southern Cameroon's Unity Conference that was also announced. And so in the face of these two conferences that were looming, we felt the need to be able to converge these efforts and ensure that if we wanted to have one all-inclusive conference, then that would be the goal. And if we decided that we wanted, as Ambazonians, to have a series of conferences, then that should be the goal, rather than having competing conferences, which would only ferment the divide. Because when resolutions come out of conferences, people are beholden to those resolutions and they don't want to give way to any other thought. And so we began this effort as early back as the beginning of the year to see if we could merge these efforts together. And that was the original premise of how we got together, working with certain international partners to try to facilitate amongst us this merging. But what eventually happened was that there were issues of transparency, there were issues of really putting on the table the plan for everybody to see and for everybody to be able to collaborate in co-creating what should be a joint effort. And so, for whatever reasons that informed all of these things, they existed. And so, as a result of that, there was a lot of difficulty in just merging two conferences into one. And so, when that came to a dead end, the next step was that, okay, this is not going to be as easy as it is, and this might not even be the best approach. What can we do next? So we decided that we should change the strategy and rather bring all of the various movements, organizations, and prominent Ambazonians, professionals within us to meet, have some conversations, do some scenario planning, do some workshops on some issues, and then from that decide what is the best approach forward. And so that is what led us to reach out to some international with the capacity to do this kind of work and ask them if they would help facilitate this kind of meetings. Some of them agreed to do so. And so we then invited all the various movements within our struggle and asked them to be a part of this meeting. The ones who wanted to do the AAC conference, the people who wanted to do the Southern Cameroon's Unity Conference. And the interesting fact that Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians need to know and take home is that many groups refused to participate in that initiative. And so the groups that actually came there and met, and the professionals who came and met, worked through all what they worked through: scenario planning, training, and also a lot of conversations, a lot of debate, a lot of real reasoning around difficult issues. That group continued to work, and that group, at the end of that conference, tasked themselves with certain duties in order to continue that work. And so that work has continued even from when that workshop meeting held in June of this year up until now, which is culminating in the vision of taking the approach to consult all Ambazonians, because we all agree that there needs to be an all-inclusive conference. But the problem was, how do we get there? And so the mechanism to get there is to get the people to tell us what they want out of it, how they want to see it, and where we go from there. And so that is why the consultation become very important. And so while there are other initiatives out there, conferences being announced, I think people should not confuse it with what we are doing here. We've called the Maryland meeting a consultative conference in Maryland, but the overall framework for what we are doing is a Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians a consultative process. And as such, there are going to be a series of consultations, whether in the form of workshops, whether in the form of surveys, whether in the form of focus groups, and community consultations, as we've all outlined. But people should not be fooled. I know that too often when a good initiative comes up, we always find a way to hold it down. I'm going to say this. It is only us, Amazonians, who are going to cause this to fail. It's not going to be any other person. It's going to only be us, because this approach relies solely on Ambazonians. It relies on you. It relies on me, on Dr. Guambe, on Margaret, on Comrade Chris, Marianta, Dr. Akwanga, Dr. Ayel, it relies on every Ambazonian, right up down to the ground. It relies on all of us to participate, let our voices be heard, so that when we see the final presentation of the report, we should be able to see ourselves. We should be able to see what we visualize for Ambazonia. We should be able to see what we visualize as freedom and dignity for us and for our suffering people.
Oh, thank you there again. I really hope that our people are listening. I hope they are listening and taking notes and understanding that this initiative is meant to make sure that their own voices are heard and that they have an input as to what kind of conference we're going to have and the resolutions that may be derived from such a conference. Dr. Ngwambe, of course, but before I do that, I think, can we have the phone number put on the screen? Because soon after this, we'll have to take some calls. If we can have the phone number put on the screen so that our viewers can call and ask their questions so that the team here can answer them. But while that phone number is being put up, Ngwambe, again, I want to hear from you, being someone who is not within the consultative team, what your own perspective is of what you have heard so far, the efforts that are being made to make sure that this thing goes well, and especially taking into consideration the lessons learned from past experiences or ongoing experiences, and managing the diverse opinions that exist within our struggle. What is your take on this initiative? Do you think that it will be enough to satisfy a good enough number of Ambazonians, bona fide Ambazonians, I should say, to be part of this initiative towards a successful Amba conference?
So the first thing that I want to say is that I really want to thank all of you who have been attending these plenary sessions. Mark Chubbs, Comrade Lehman, Barrister Bobga, I know he's been a part of it. Our brothers from the Southern Cameroon's International Town Hall, Dr. Fontem has been part of it. Dr. Fondi, the representatives from Marianta's organization that have been there. Anyone who I've missed, please, I apologize if I missed your name. I'm just trying to think of these. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to go through these plenary sessions. And I really also want to take the time to thank you guys for recognizing that, as opposed to rushing and calling something an all Ambazonia conference when a good bit of Ambazonian organizations and individuals are not present, and then making it look fake, that is not the outcome that you all want. I really want to thank you all for taking the time to, kind of slow walk it and build a consensus and bring people on board. It's not easy. I remember when we were trying to do the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia Unity Conference, that was not easy. And personally, one of the issues that I think helped cause that to fail was those individuals who are not willing to accept others as they are. We Ambazonians, we have to be able to accept other Ambazonians as they are. Be willing to respect other Ambazonian organizations for what they bring to the table, because I know there are people out there who blame the Ambazonian groups for all the ills that have befallen this struggle without recognizing their own faults. And that is something that I'm hoping that you all have been able to, appreciate amongst each other after being able to talk with one another behind the scenes, that, hey, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, but when we work together, we can get closer to perfection. So I believe that's, from listening to you who are here, that is what I'm hearing. I mean, I've heard the representative for one of the other, Robert Fondi's organization, he was supposed to be here. I've listened to them talk about the work you all are doing behind the scenes, and it has been very positive. So though he is not here, I have heard his representative speak positively about what is happening behind the scenes. So I really want to appreciate for you all for that. It's not going to be easy. As a matter of fact, when we start running our own country, we're going to have these debates, especially if we want to be a democracy. And I want this to be a democracy. We're going to have these debates. We're not going to have a rubber stamp system like what we see going on in La Republic du Cameroon, which is the Beti Bulu dominated society, where they're shutting down debate and they're not able to find a way to resolve the issues that are arriving. The one question that I would like to ask the three of you who have been attending those sessions is, what misperception has been cleared up in your minds about your fellow comrades that, from you all attending these plenary sessions? What has been cleared up? What misperception have you had cleared up by attending these plenary sessions with each other? And what have you all learned about the resilience and the commitment to freedom about your fellow Amazonians? What have you learned from attending these plenary sessions about the commitment to liberty from your fellow Amazonians?
If I may jump in quickly. Yes, that's an important point, and thank you, Dr. Gwambi, for representing it in that fashion, and for recognizing, the challenges. One of the biggest things that we have recognized is that when Ambazonians get together physically in person, there is a lot of camaraderie. There is a lot of, in spite of our differences, in spite of the worldviews that we bring when we come together, in spite of where we are coming from, the politics that we represent or the communities that we represent, when we are together, we see each other, we see the humanity in each other. We laugh, we talk, we reminisce about, back home, about homeland, we share stories. There's generally a sense of camaraderie. There's a sense of reassurance and happiness. And yes, we also deal with the difficult issues. And I find that in those moments when we deal with the difficult issues, it's not as tense as it might sometimes come across when we're on Zoom or we're just talking online. There is a real recognition that, we are humans. We're passionate about the issue. We all care about our suffering people. We want the war to end. We want to get a free homeland. We want to govern ourselves democratically with dignity. We want to be that being in Africa, the new nation that comes to the land. So we recognize all of this in each other when we come together. And I think that's the biggest misperception that people have. That when we talk and make voice audios on WhatsApp and on all the social media, that there is an entrenched animosity. But when you see people, we sit together in the same room in the evenings, we have supper together, we talk. It's something that if we could film and put for people to see, they will not believe, the perceptions that they have. So that is what really motivates this idea of consultation, because it says that for the consultations that we are going to have, where people can be in person with each other, you're going to see that sense of camaraderie. We're going to deal with difficult issues, but you're going to hold your brother's hand and disagree. And he's not going to shout back because you're holding his hand. He's going to disagree with his own perspective. And at the end of the day, you guys are going to hold hands and say, you know what, this is the best way forward for us. And even if you don't agree on the best way forward, you're going to agree on a way that you can continue to discuss that issue without being antagonistic to each other until you get to the best way forward. And so even within the coordination team right now, we still have, heated debates about issues and how the approach should work. But at the end of the day, we are all plugged into the collective vision, which is that this is about the people. This is about our people suffering and how we can end that suffering and how we can pursue a pathway that would lead us to our ultimate objective.
Thank you there, Colonel McCheps. I will just play that. Maybe you try to summarize those answers so we can take as many questions as possible before the end. I have a question here from our comrade Rose Bush online, and I'll read it. It says, how would you guarantee that the surveys will be field done by Ambazonians only in ground zero? the diaspora, etc. I think the concern here is infiltration by enablers to fill the surveys. How are you going to ensure that only genuine Ambazonians take part in the surveys?
Thank you for that. That's an important observation from Ms. Bush. Thank you for the question. So, as in everything in life, there's always a margin of error, and you have to, Mike is more of a scientist than I am, so he knows what I'm talking about and can probably explain it better. You always, you always have a test scenario to ensure that if things go one way or the other, they can work. So I cannot guarantee that there are not going to be these margins of error. But what we can guarantee is that if Ambazonians take it upon themselves in commitment to ensure that we don't have those problems, then we will mitigate as much as possible any malfeasance from anybody who wants to disrupt. What do I mean by that? It means you, Ms. Butch, you have that survey, you call your neighbor, you call your friends, you go to your community group, your Njangi, the people that you know are committed to this cause, and you say, please, this survey is safe and secure. Fill this survey. That is how we're going to get the majority of genuine, committed Ambazonians to do what they need to do. Now, for the others who might be trying to come in and cause mischief, that is going to be drowned out in the very survey itself. And also, one of the things that we have to state right up front is that the survey is not the only tool. It is but one tool. And so all the other tools that have been contemplated are tools that have taken into account the risk assessment management so that we ensure that we are protecting the information that we are gathering and ensuring that it is secure and that it's not manipulated or skewed. That's why we're going to communities to talk to them. That's why we're asking people to come into meetings, that we would organize Zoom meetings to talk to them. Maybe in those Zoom meetings, they would have a minute or 5 to fill surveys so that we are sure of the people that are doing these things. So we are employing all of our senses to ensure that this is as transparent as possible, but also that we protect the feedback and the data that we are getting from our people.
Thank you, there, Mark Chips. If I may add, I think one other measure that could be taken is to ensure that more impetus is paid towards physical physical participation, and that a marked down accuracy level is given to online surveys where the identities of the participants may, if we can estimate that level of accuracy, that magic number, then the surveys that come in online may be marked down to accommodate those inaccuracies that may come from enablers. If that helps, I'm just trying to add something to it. So, I would like for the phone lines, if you have a question, please, this is the time for you to call before we end the show. Call and ask your question. I know Comrade Candida was trying to call me previously. Let me see if he is still available. Comrade Candida was trying to call me. Let me see.
While you're talking to Candida, if I may, Comrade Mike.
Yeah. Yes, please, go ahead.
One of the things that I want to highlight for our people is this. We are at a stage where it's very critical. The suffering of our people is unbearable. We need to do something strong. And so I'm imploring every Ambazonian, wherever we have the opportunity to meet, to come together in each other's presence, to do so. Whether we are called together by international partners or we are called together for purposes such as this, consulting with each other. I think we should not be fearful about what the agenda is. I think there is always value in meeting with other Ambazonians, talking things out, and learning about their own lived experience through the struggle as they learn about yours. So that is the key. We should not encourage the habit where when people are called together to come to see how they can work together. People hold out or say, I'm not going to come there because of this and this and this and that. I think, at this stage in our struggle, people should be strong-willed enough to know what is truth and what is not, to be able to be reassured in their own convictions, so that even if you might be in a place where they are saying something that, is way whack out of the park, you can stand up there and say, I'm here, I'm listening, but, this is not something I agree with. So I think that's the best approach, rather than refraining from attending and then your voice, even that objection, is not being heard.
Well said, Machebs. Mike, your volume.
You are bound okay. That those who fail to participate, give room for the others to make the decisions for them, and then you have to live with the consequences. I think I have Comrade Candida on the phone. Let me see what he wanted to say. Comrade Candida, go ahead, please.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mike?
5 and 5.
Yeah, thank you very much, and also I'd like to appreciate the panelists and the in-depth analysis that Comrade Mark James has done regarding the initiative for the conference. Job well done. And of course, our regular guest, Dr. Nwande, congratulations. And Maji, who is always available.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, actually, I wanted to make some contribution, especially in the early part when you were talking about the France extortion of Africa.
I think it's not too late to do that. You can go ahead.
Yes. You see, the point is that we only look at this extortion from the level of leadership, like the presidents of the various countries. But I will tell you guys that it's far from that. All of us talking, including you, Mike, the French would go as low as they can to kill any of us that they see that we are talking against them. I mean, just as ordinary Africans.
Yes.
Okay, in case in time, one of the most intelligent military general or army general Cameroon has ever had was General Tumenta. You must have heard of him.
Yes.
Yes, that's the most intelligent general Cameroon has ever had. When there was this UN mission that was sent to Central African Republic, the United Nations refused the general that Kobia sent to them, said they wanted to work with Tumenta. When they insisted, Tumenta went to Central African Republic. When Tumeta went there, he went and uncovered the atrocities that the French were doing in the name of UN peacekeepers. He started reporting those atrocities. Guess what happened? They passed through his driver, who was also his cook, and killed Tumeta. That's how Tumeta died, the French. So what I'm just saying is that even you and me talking as ordinary Africans, the French will go as low as possible to kill any influential African. So that's how low they can go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution. I think it just underscores the wickedness of France on the African continent. The wickedness of France is they are just apart from others. Apart from slavery, I don't think anyone else has done anything as bad as the French have done to the African continent. Because you see, look at all the good leaders we had that they have killed. Look at all our resources being cut. Look at the number of people who have died. But you see the struggle where Africans are dying, trying to get into Europe is because of the destruction of their own countries here in Africa. And then and to the point where even other European countries are upset with France that they are responsible for what they are now having to deal with, this migration, because they are responsible for all the chaos that's happening in Africa. So we understand, those who still do not understand that the French are like one of their worst enemies, then they don't really understand what is going on in this world. But that is apart from, I think we moved on from that, but I had to at least give Comrade Canada a chance to make a statement. So I think the calls are not coming in. Maybe Colonel Mark Chepps must have done a wonderful job that people are very satisfied and they don't they don't they don't see any need to ask you any questions because you were so detailed in your presentation. You are my G, and they are satisfied and they are probably looking forward to being part of the conference. So I don't know if you have anything else to add. Where the program will be ending in about 8 minutes. So if there's anything more you have to say, this is the moment to go ahead and say it. Our viewers are listening.
Thank you, fellow Southern Cameroonians and Bazonians. Please, my plea to you is this is not a Mark Chepps, this is not a Mike Fusi, this is not a Comrade Chris Anu, this is not a Dr. Ngwambe, this is not a Mama G, this is not a Dr. Fontaine, this is not a Barrister Bobga, this is not a Chairman Cometa, this is not a Robert Fondi or a Lehman thing. This is an Ambazonian initiative. Regardless of who leads it, we need a consultative approach to how we set our struggle up for success going into the next years. Our people have endured a lot of suffering. There is a lot of carnage on our homeland. We need to reconcile with each other. We are brothers and sisters. We need to find a constructive way to resolve our differences. We need to create spaces and forums for us to debate our differences. And we need to work together, hand to plow, to ensure that freedom and only freedom is what is going to restore our dignity. So come one, come all. If you can't make it to one session, don't fret. There are going to be many. We will ensure that every voice is lifted, every voice is heard, and that the collective vision reflects all of our voices. So please stay focused and continue to engage with this consultative process in all the ways that you can. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mark Chepps, for coming on. I don't know if Mama G is still with us. Mama G, are you still here? If you are here, I would like to hear your final comments. Mama G is probably not with us. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Your
the
audio.
final thing.
You're okay now. You're good. You're good.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my final thing I want to say is that I'm pleading with everybody to register. I'm pleading with everybody to take the survey. People who are able to come should come. And if you cannot come, be prepared to go to other sessions. It is all inclusive. We need the voices of everybody. This is a different kind of approach, where, as we've said, is from the bottom up. Every voice will count. We need our people to speak. We need to do what we know is right. We need to include everybody. So everybody is important. Every voice counts. We are waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you again, G, for coming on. I think Ambazonians have been listening. And please, when for those who were not able to join the show today, make sure to share the link to all so they can follow it and get this information, which is very, very important. Share the link wherever you are in all the fora. So that others can have a chance to have this information as well. And to you, Dr. Ngwambe, we have a few minutes to kill here. Again, I think starting from the first topics that we talked about being from La Republique, that is not able to pay its bills, and not very strange. You have a country that is led by crooks, thieves, and scoundrels. What can you expect? Things like that will have to happen, and then the worst thing is that the man at the helm is spends 90% of the day sleeping. So when you're an absentee father, anything goes in the house, right? And then we come to this issue of the French imperialism that has cost the African continent scores of lives, millions of lives, devastation in infrastructure, the loss of wealth that has left the African continent due to the activities of France. The fact that we have failed states today because France participated in killing their good leaders, putting in place puppets who do their bidding instead of leading and working for their own people. But I think the days of France in Africa are drawing near. The days of France in Africa are drawing near, and people are standing up and saying this nonsense must stop. So, Dr. Mwambe, your own final statements with regards to all these things, and then culminating with, of course, this consultative conference. Just make your final statements, and we'll call it a day.
Well, Tom, Mike, thank you for having me on your show today, as always. And to Machebs, Maji, thank you for the work again. Thank you for the work you are doing in the background, and thank you for all of those who are working inside the. I believe you all called it the cooperation. I can't remember the name of the coordination group. Yes, the coordination group. That's what you all called it. Yeah, thank you all in the coordination group for the work that you're doing. Even thank you to the other organizations who are working on their own conference. We are all going to bring it together at some point. I think over the past week, the events that have occurred in Africa, right? What have they taught us as Africans, and what have they taught us as Ambazonians? They have taught us that we Africans, we are stronger when we work together. I repeat, we are stronger when we work together. And I really want to thank, our brother, the MP in South Africa, Julius Malema, who has always been preaching this. And I really hope that President Tinubu of Nigeria, he hears this, that we are better when we work together. Yes, we don't like military coups, but we do not also like constitutional coups that entrench the presidency, or people who manipulate elections, which end up thwarting democracy and create an environment where these type of military coups can happen. So we're better off working together. Look, my fellow Ambazonians, La République du Cameroon, they continue to want to steal from us what is ours. We must not let them. Look what they did to Nijon Frundi. They stole an election result that belonged to him and to the people of La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia. They stole that from him. And in his death, that's instead what they want to honor him and fool the gullible amongst you, not me, amongst you, to think that they love Nijon Frundi so much. My fellow Ambazonians, we must not be fooled by the shenanigans, the evil of French Cameroon. Nijon Frundi may have turned his cheek to be slapped by La République du Cameroon, but we Ambazonians, we know better. And why do we know better? Is because we know what the real golden rule is. And that golden rule is treat others the way you want to be treated. So La République du Cameroon has been mistreating us, and now we are paying them in their own coins. The same thing is what is going on with France. France has been mistreating African countries, exploiting them, enabling dictatorship, enabling the manipulation of the constitution. And guess what? Africans are beginning to learn that you must treat people the way you want to be treated. And that's why France is getting the response it is getting now from African people in the Sahel in particular, and African countries continent-wide. So, my fellow Ambazonians, in summing up everything we have discussed today, let us work together. Let us continue to talk with each other. Let us hold each other's hand, because the only way we will go further, the only way we will reach Boya, is if we go together. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you again, Tom, Mike, and fellow co-panelists for the discussion that we had today. My fellow Ambazonians, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Take care.
Thank you, Tag Gwambe. Thank you again for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you on the set of the War Zone. Fellow Ambazonians, we're coming to the end of our show today. But the take-home message I like for us to understand is this. We Africans have been so abused for a very long time. And how they did it was by indoctrinating us, teaching us that fighting back is not good. They told us that when they slap you on one cheek, you turn the other cheek. But the question is, do they practice what they preach? Do they allow themselves to be slapped on one cheek and then turn the other cheek to be slapped? No, they don't do it. They told us that because they wanted us to be weak. They wanted us to allow ourselves to be used. They told us to wait for our own glory days when we die, while they are having their own glory days right here on earth. I think right now we should be smart enough to figure that out, that it was deception, pure and simple. So how do we overcome this? We have to come together, because what they used was divide. It came to the African continent, they divided families, they divided tribes, they carved it out to please them in ways that would benefit them. All the boundaries that were created in the African continent was not done for the benefit of the African people. It was done for the benefit of the imperialists, those who wanted to exploit us. It is time for us to determine for ourselves how we want to live, what kind of governments we want to have, what kind of leaders we want to have. It means reaching out and holding hands, having each other's back. Just look at what Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Mali did. They were under threat of being attacked, and they declared that if you attack one of us, we will come together and fight you. And what did they do? They backed down. They backed down. That is what it means to form a team. And that is what the imperialists fear the most. They fear to see Africans coming together. That is why Gaddafi was killed. Gaddafi was killed because he started preaching African unity. He wanted Africa to have one currency. They did not like that, because when you start having one currency, then they will not be able to exploit you. France, again, went in and led the way for Gaddafi to be killed. See what happened when the West African countries were trying to put together the echo as a currency. France, again, insisting that they should continue to use their worthless treasury note. We went in there and made sure that was defeated. We are wiser now. We are more enlightened. We are educated. We have to overcome that and get France out of our continent. France is like a plague. They are like a plague. We must get rid of it. As long as we live with it, we can never be healthy. We'll never see growth. France is bad news. They must go. They must go. And without having to take too much of your time, I would like to say, when you know a snake, when you know what a snake looks like, you know the mannerisms of a snake is a snake. And when you see it, you treat it as such. So, fellow Ambazonians, I want to thank our brave fighters on the ground who are doing a marvelous job to defend our homeland. We will continue to support you and stand by you every day till Ambazonia is free. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the show. I want you again, as usual, to take good care of each other, take care of yourselves, to take good care of yourselves and each other. And with that, the war zone is out. Good night.